Travis Wayne Goodsell. This is going to be extremely sensitive for Mormons who believe they're Christian, because we are not Christian. And the concept of Jesus being literal history makes it even worse when we try to reconcile it with what we know as Mormons, distinct from Christians. And as a result, Mormons don't realize that because we're not Christian, because our Jesus is distinct for a number of reasons, then Jesus of the Gospels is a failed Christ. So, let me go over some examples. Section 85, verse 7 says that the temple has to be set in order. Now, this is Joseph Smith saying this. He's saying in the future, the temple will need to be set in order. And I know that there have been Brighamite prophets who have tried to explain this. They all fail. This is a prophecy, and it comes from the Old Testament. Deuteronomy chapter 18, as I've gone over with you. But Christians emerged under Constantine when the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed. And so they learned to not need a temple and temple worship. For Mormons, we just had Nelson come out again in conference explaining the importance and necessity of the temples and temple worship. So Jesus, during the Roman period time, is not really granted access to the temple. We only hear about him going into synagogues and chasing out the money changers at the temple. But we don't hear him going through the temple to do the names, signs, and tokens of the holy priesthood and the covenant oaths of the covenant path of obedience, sacrifice, gospel, chastity, and law of consecration. We don't see him wearing the magic underwear, a shield and a protection against the power of the destroyer until we've finished our work on the earth. Is that why he died? He wasn't wearing his garments? So there's a whole new perspective on Jesus now. That we as Mormons have built up a tradition for cultural practice that now excludes Jesus. Because we're not Christian. Not even Joseph had his magic underwear on, because he didn't come up with it. It was Brigham. But I will not be going into that discussion. This is about the Mormon Jesus failure. And so the concept of the temple was supposed to be for washing and anointings. And we do not hear of the temple in Jerusalem being used in such a manner. It was only used for sacrifices. That was pretty much it for the ceremonies performed by the priests according to the law of Moses. But the Romans had dominion over the temple as guards were set around about to keep the peace, as they called it. As there were many skirmishes, because the Jews don't want Romans at their temple. And eventually the temple is destroyed, as Jesus is convicted as a terrorist for claiming that the temple would be destroyed. Then we have Jeremiah chapter 23 and the prophecy that the Christ of the future, Deuteronomy 18, is supposed to save the Jews. He fails. He doesn't save the Jews. And in fact, he's condemned and murdered by the Jews. And if you're thinking that the Jews are a complete different religion and we need to hate the Jews today because you believe Jesus is a real person, not created by Constantine, and that Constantine isn't the one who turned the apocalyptic literature into literal history, that you literally believe Jesus is real and the Gospels are literal history. Independent of Constantine, you don't catch on. Jesus was a Jew. It was his church, his religion, his people, his fellow brethren and sistren in the church. It would be like President Nelson being condemned by Mormons to his death. Though not really, because he would be the Caiaphas role, who also ordered the death of Jesus. So it would be a regular member who is actually the Christ, and Mormons want him dead. That's what you don't get. Jesus fails. And so Jesus does not fulfill the majority of the prophecies necessary. We see in the second chapter of Matthew that Herod consults his priests, and they consult the scriptures and say, well, he's supposed to be born in Bethlehem of Judah. Well, no. Because then you have John in Revelation we'll stick with Matthew. We won't go to the one. You have Matthew then saying that in order for the prophecy to be fulfilled, instead, that Jesus has to come from Egypt. The author then says, oh, well, Joseph was told in a dream, take your stepson, because it's not his son. And there's problems of descendancy of the king line in Matthew chapter 1. Again, Jesus doesn't fulfill prophecy. He's not a literal descendant of King David. Kind of has to be. In order to be the king of the Jews, you have to have your bloodline through King David. And Matthew does not make that connection. Joseph, the one who buys Mary at the temple, which you have to refer to other documents for that information. They sort of keep it a sacred secret in Matthew. And so lots of problems if you're going to call this literal history and Jesus a real person as a Mormon, because he does not fulfill prophecy at all. Not at all. And I've gone over with you the Bethlehem of Judah is 23rd September 2017 in Utah. He's supposed to be in Utah during that time. But we're not going to discuss that because you can't get past Jesus. And so he does not become the king of the Jews. That's why he's mocked at his death on the cross. Here hangs Jesus, King of the Jews. That's not even his name. It's supposed to be Emmanuel. And so, yeah, there's lots of problems if you're going to call this literal history and Jesus a real person as a Mormon. See, for Christians, they've got excuses to justify all this. But for Mormons, it does not hold. He has to be. And so the government of Rome and the religion of Caiaphas didn't fall. Jesus fails. He does not restore the kingdom of David. I don't know if you fully comprehend this. And now we're forced into a situation of, why do we need Joseph Smith? Because Christians don't need Joseph Smith. They're not looking for a regular mortal to restore the church in preparation for Jesus' second coming. They're just waiting for Jesus to come for the second coming. Why then are Mormons focused on Joseph Smith and the need to restore the church for the restoration of Jesus to do what he failed to do during the Roman period time? If you're going to be Christian, there's no reason for Joseph. All that Joseph stuff with the Book of Mormon even, no, we don't need any of that. It's all redundant. In fact, it even makes it more complicated, as Christians are well aware of when we go knocking on their doors on our missions. Hi, we're from the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, Mormons. Slam. A Bible. They've got a Bible. They don't need any more Bible because Jesus is coming. Why then do we have a Book of Mormon, Doctrine and Covenants, and a Pearl of Great Price? Church doesn't even care about translator. They don't want the Book of Abraham. They're not even going to bother to finish the translation of it, let alone do the translation from the Book of Joseph. We have selections from the Book of Moses that includes some of what the Book of Joseph would talk about. If only there was somebody out there who had done this and who had shown that facsimile number 3 is Abraham sealing his son Isaac with his wife. If only there was somebody out there who could make that translation. And so, if he failed, why is he coming back a second time? He's an imperfect being now. He's not perfect. He says he is in the Book of Mormon, but he failed. We can't trust him. How are we even going to know when he comes? Oh, because he's the one coming from outer space on a flying horse or a pillar of light? And zaps only the wicked? Which means the Mormons are going to be the only ones left on earth? Oh, there'll be some wicked left over? So he fails to conquer wickedness? Are you not catching on? What is the point of him coming in the latter days to restore Joseph Smith's church? The whole thing is confusing now. What good is it to have Joseph Smith restore the church when Christians say, well, Jesus will come and unite all Christianity and convert the Jews to the true Christian church? What is the point of the latter days if we're going to believe in Jesus as Mormons with the additional information completely blasphemous for Christians? Now, yes, there are answers. And it starts with, we're not Christian.